This is where we get into the husband situation where she starts cheating.
Like I mentioned, he wasn't very kind. So he did like married 6, together almost 10.
So she was with a guy for 10 years, married for 6. Says that he wasn't the nicest man ever, but let's carry on.
Yeah.
You guys had problems?
Yes, we both had our own sets of problems. Like I mentioned, he wasn't very kind. So he did lay hands on me, be very rude to me, make terrible comments, call me names, put me down. But then I was unfaithful a few times and ended up
Not once, a few times, right?
mothering children from those men.
Again, mothering children from those men. That's how she ended up with 3 baby daddies with 2 kids.
On my husband.
So you were married to your husband, but you were having children with other men.
I was. And he raised them as his own and knew
As a cuck would.
them to be his own until the divorce.
How did that news come out?
My lawyer had to use language
Oh, this gets funny. Pay attention here.
in what we wanted to kind of make it a point to say that, like, he may not be the dad. You know, like, I don't even remember what word she used, but it was a word that kind of made his lawyer be like, we should probably do a DNA.
So just to recap that, when she's going through the divorce and the separation agreement, there was language inserted by her lawyer, probably under her instruction, Kiara's, something to do with the custody order or maybe the way that funds would flow. She mentions that there was no child support because they both made about the same amount of money. But why would they insert something in the separation agreement about the deal maintaining regardless of whether or not he's the biological father? Now, whatever language she inserted, his lawyer picked up on it and encouraged him to get a DNA test where he discovered, of course, the 2 kids were not his.
DNA test on these children. And he did.
Because you were looking to keep it quiet?
I wouldn't say that.
Like this weird, yeah, I wouldn't say that. It's very unusual body language and behavior. And again, she's not a typical conventional conservative type of looking woman. You can see tattoos on her sleeve underneath her jacket. So I'm assuming they go right up to her shoulder on both arms. When you look at her fingers and her knuckles, she's got tattoos over there. She's got purple hair. She's got the giant insert in her earlobe. Those are just the visible red flags that we can see, with the body mutilation. So we're talking daddy issues. We're talking feminists. We're also going to get into the boss girl thing in a little bit. She calls herself a badass bitch.
To collect child support?
No, oh no. The divorce agreement said no child support on either side. We were both making the same amount of money. So to this day, neither of us pays child support. But no, he got them. I didn't want to necessarily keep it quiet. I didn't want to break his heart, is what it is.
And then this is where he cuts and does a B-roll photograph over her basically crying as she's talking, which is probably a smart move for his channel. It seems like a better way to roll it, but just listen here.
No matter how mean he was to me, I don't use that as an excuse for what I did, because there's not an excuse, And I
Saying and doing. What do I keep telling you guys between saying and doing? Watch what a woman does. Don't listen to what she says. Actions will express priorities. Choices will always trump words. She's sitting here going, it doesn't excuse what I did, but I did it anyway. I banged 2 other men and had their children while married to him, and basically held out to him that these kids were his. So she's having sex with 3 men, basically. I don't know if the other 2 were overlapping, but at least 2 men simultaneously, while she's taken a covenant, a vow to be with this one man in a marriage.
I carry a lot of guilt with me about it. And I got my babies. I mean, they're the greatest things in the whole world, but
How did he find out?
he did the paternity test, and the paternity test came back. He was 99% not the father. And he called me and he was like, "Do you want to get in front of this?" I said, "Get in front of what? What do you mean?" And about an hour later, he had posted publicly on Facebook that he was not the father of the children.
How many kids?
2.
How old were they?
5 at the time, 4 and 2. 4 and 2. And they still know him to be their only father.
So she's still telling the kids that the married dad is the biological dad. And it gets weirder because the daughter that she had after the son she had with the caretaker in the housing corp that she worked at, he sounded like he was Hispanic because the daughter came out, she called him tanned, and mentioned the father was Hispanic.
And he still treats them as if he's the only father.
So he's still in their lives?
Oh, yeah.
That's very nice of him.
If that's what you want to call it.
Now, hear what Mark just said there to her. He asked, they're still in their lives. She said, oh, yeah. And he says, well, that's very nice of him. And she goes, if that's what you want to call it. Listen to what she says next. These are the kinds of words that narcissists and psychopaths use.
I call it control, but
She calls it control. She went and banged 2 other dudes, told him that these kids are his, divorced him, broke his heart. He did a paternity test, found out that they're not his. He's still involved in the kids' lives, coaches a baseball team, sees them on a regular basis. And she says, I call it controlling. You can't even make the shit up, my dudes.
nice is not a word that people often use for this man. Anything he can.
I'd really like to hear his side of the story. I think that would be interesting. There's always her side, his side, and somewhere in the middle, could be closer to his side, could be closer to her side, is the truth.
Do to not essentially let go of me and to kind of continue to control my life is what I think to be the reason. He sees him once a week, takes him every other weekend, maybe not even the whole weekend.
So it's an ugly divorce.
It was ugly. It went on for about 7 or 8 months, which I know is not long in most divorces, but I thought it was going to be a cut and dry, quick thing. I didn't think he was going to fight me on it. I thought he didn't like me this whole time, but here we are. So he did fight me on pretty much everything I asked for. The divorce ended pretty equal. Nobody got anything crazy. 50-50 with the kids until he ended up unhoused. But yeah,
How's it 50-50 with the kids if he's only seeing them every other weekend, right? It's like she says one thing, it's 50-50, but he only gets to see them every other weekend. That's not 50-50. That's like more of like an 80-20.
he's still present.
That's, by the way, what most lawyers call the screw over daddy deal. It's like, the father gets him every other weekend and a Wednesday night for dinner.
Then he still shows up to parent-teacher conferences. He coached
Oh, we'll get to that in a second, Jerry. Hold on.
my son's baseball team last summer. So he's still as involved as he wants to be.
And you would prefer that was not the case, or?
Unfortunately, he doesn't like to pick, this is going to sound bad about me, but he doesn't like to pick the best women. And I do feel that one day there will come.
He doesn't like to pick the best women. And she recognizes that it will sound bad about her. Isn't that fascinating?
Did you premeditate this, or just all of a sudden you found out you were pregnant by somebody you were cheating with?
Oh, no, it was definitely not premeditated, but we weren't using protection.
So it was premeditated.
I didn't say, like, I'm going to have sex with this man to have a baby,
I mean, I think we know how the birds and the bees work, ladies and gentlemen watching this show. Does it need to be explained? And then she says, but we weren't using protection. That's just how it goes, right? What did you think was going to happen, Kiara?
But I mean, I guess there was nothing done to prevent it. And the first man that I had the affair with is now my boyfriend, the father of my first child, my son. And he was my husband's assistant manager at the time.
So I can skip ahead of this. So this guy worked for her husband, not her husband working for this guy. So it's not a clear-cut case of hypergamy where it's across and up on the socioeconomic scale where the guy's in a better position and a replacement for him. What this would have likely been was more of the alpha seed component. She also talks about husband being mean, controlling, abusive, called her names, put her down, things like that. So you hear her often say throughout this, he was kind, he was nice, he was a nice, kind, basically dude. And they played visitations behind the husband's back every Wednesday. He would come over, they would pork. Well, listen to her tell a story.
This gets messy.
It's very, it's very messy. So my ex-husband brought him onto the team where he was working. And my ex-husband always made his assistant managers like his best friend. So he started bringing this guy around, and I made the first move, of course. And I feel like I just sensed his kindness. I mean, still to this day, this man that I'm with is the kindest, most patient man I've ever met.
Kindness.
So I think I felt that kindness from him, which I wasn't getting from my husband at the time. So I don't even know how it started beyond me just touching his hand when we were smoking joints.
Now, she said earlier, I'm not sure if I played that bit, but she said earlier that she's been clean since she was 21 years old. The two kids are 4 and 2. So not only is she a liar, but she's a liar that cheats as well or betrays her husband. She hasn't been clean. If she's sitting around smoking joints with her husband's under report because he was the assistant manager, and I guess the husband was a manager. But just listen.
But one day he came over my house without my ex-husband there, and you know what happened next. And we only saw each other once a week to do this because of how my schedule, my ex-husband's.
We only saw each other once a week. It's almost as if she's saying, like, I wasn't really that bad because we only saw each other once a week because of our schedules. And it just wasn't something that we did that frequently.
Schedule and his schedule matched up. So every Wednesday, I saw him. We had sex. He watched me get ready for work, and then he'd go work for my ex-husband.
Imagine you're this dude, you just banged your boss's wife, and then you go to work and you go and complete your daily task, and you get paid by your boss who you're banging his wife.
Yeah, so that's how that one started. And again, I mean, my son is just the best human ever. So I don't.
So again, this is infidelity number one. This is the first kid with a different guy. Here comes the next one.
Regret it. And I'm with him now, and he's just my absolute soulmate. And I haven't cheated on him. But
She's proud of that. And I haven't cheated on him yet.
the second affair, who the man is the father of my daughter, he actually worked with me this time. He was my maintenance guy at my leasing job. And again, just another kind man who was nice to me. And I was.
See, it's completely counterintuitive. You know, guys find that they're told by their mommies or their single moms, just be a kind man, just be a nice guy. And then this is what guys hear, you know, just he was kind, he was nice, but we don't see women choose kind, nice men, right? They're not actually going for kind, nice men. Isn't that interesting? She calls him a kind, nice man. You know, moms will tell their kids, just be kind and nice, because that's what women want. But the guys that are kind and nice never get what they want, right? So there's a total conflict of these statements.
See him a lot more because we worked together. So we would take our lunches together and have sex then.
And by the way, kind and nice men don't bang women that are married or women with kids, women that are married with kids. I could go on and on. Kind, nice men don't do that. They are able to go and get what they want out in the world. They just take what they want in their world. But, you know, here she is talking about banging the maintenance man on lunch hours. Let's go on.
And when I found out I was pregnant with my son, we were 100% sure it was my husband's, even though I was having an affair, because I don't know, I just always felt like I could sense when I got pregnant, which obviously isn't right, but I just felt it. So we were so sure. And then he came out looking like my boyfriend now. Spitting image. So there were some questions at the beginning there, but still you have to be really sure about that to confront your wife. You know, you gotta be real sure. So he didn't. People questioned what he looked like to him, and he just said no. And then with my daughter, she's Hispanic. So she came
Hispanic, so that's the maintenance man's kid.
out a little more tan than the both of us. And just as she grew up, just kept that tan skin. And still, she looks so much like me. He was just like, yep, she looks like my wife. And now she looks like her dad, which is terrifying. But again, I love her crazy ass too. But
I love my crazy ass daughter too. So crazy makes crazy, guys. You know, crazy moms, like it gets pushed down generation to generation, right?
Have regrets about anything you've done?
I wouldn't say regrets because I got my babies. So I definitely am not going to say that I regret it. I wish I would have gone about it differently, maybe, or maybe picked a second different baby daddy. I don't know, because I didn't even think he was gonna be my baby daddy. And here we are with 3 baby daddies and 2 kids, is what I joke about. So yeah, it's been wild.
Emotionally, what is?
I'd say yeah.
Yeah, we were talking. Somebody said cope. Yeah, pure cope. Right. What do humans do? They complicate life and then they justify why they do it. I did all this dumb shit over here, but I got my babies. Right. I got my babies, so everything's fine. I got my babies. I love my babies. My babies are the best ever. I'm a single mom to 2 superhumans swiping on a dating app. Okay. They're the best ever.
You're putting other people through emotions that they never.
Yeah, his
They never saw coming.
ex-husband's family cut him off once he decided to claim the children. They didn't like that, and they threatened to sue me with fraud because of what they had bought in the children. And then, I mean, of course, I took away my ex-husband's whole life in one swift. Whoosh, you know, house, wife, kids. So I think the craziest part is just the guilt that I always feel, like every day. And if I think about it, I cry.
She's crying over divorcing him and taking the kids away from him, but then says in other breaths that he's controlling and he's only there for the kids, but they're also not his kids. there's not really a strong acknowledgement to the fact that she's betrayed his biological imperative to sire his own children, right? She just like, there's that saying about when women cry, and she cries a few times in this, like, you can only trust a woman's tears when she's crying in a room by herself. If it's in front of other people or even in front of a camera like this, oftentimes it's for theatrics, right? So that she's not being so harshly judged and criticized for what she's done. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.